Fernando, good morning.
Hey, Jared, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So, I guess why don't we start off by talking a little bit about how you started Hyperion and I guess how you guys got the idea to go with 3D concrete printing. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course. Thanks first for putting this call together. Um, the way we started Hyperion was that I first found construction as an industry there was very little innovation, and even though I didn't have a background, I just found it very interesting, and I saw a big opportunity there. And so, from just by doing some research, I realized that um, the kind of changes and innovations that were happening in the industry were somehow incremental changes, some improvements, but there were no like big changes in terms of construction processes. So it was fun for me, and I came up with a few concepts, and just talking to a few engineers, I try to prove some ideas, and then I came up with concrete 3D printing. There was a little bit of stuff going on when I first started, and then what happened was that I met my co-founder in Finland, who is an architect, and he's been doing 3D printing for the past 9 years. And then after doing all these experiments in the beginning, that's when all things fell into place.
And so what kind of experiments were those?
Well, we basically started doing some printing with concrete. The first things that we printed were some chairs, some furniture. So it was just to prove the concept of um, having these large-scale industrial robots, and print some initially smaller scale objects that could be the beginning of something much bigger. That, as you well know, there's pretty big projects in terms of housing and other kinds of construction projects.
So those first experimental projects you were talking about, are those with the same printer that you're using now, or were those with a different, maybe gantry style printer, or?
It was also with a robotic arm.
Okay.
We started with an ABB robotic arm, an older version actually. So the concept is basically the same. I would say the first test was really with a crane, where
Wow.
we put like a very simple printing head, and then connected it to a hose, and we did some very small printing, and then from there we started adjusting the material, because the first was really bad. What was extruded was extremely liquid, and it wasn't as the structures that you can see now, but that helped us to keep improving the process and get to where we are now.
Yeah, so the sounds like the beginning struggle was the kind of the material was really liquidy. You had to figure out, I guess, fine tuning how you can print in concrete and have it set fast enough for the next layer.
Yeah, that's right.
And Hyperion's main contribution. So you got the robotic arm, and then you added the extruder head. Did you design the extruder head?
Yeah, so our system is, I would say, it's a combination of, it has four main components. So it's the robotic arm. We're working now with Kuka, the robotic manufacturer. And there's the mixing pump, which is also a third-party component. And then we have our extruder or printing head, which is proprietary. That's something we have developed. And the software, which is the most important part that helps us controlling the entire system.
Sure. So the software, I guess, is a constant development. What's your background primarily? Do you have an engineering background, coding background, or did you just kind of get into it?
Yeah, not really. My background is mainly in business. So I studied business, and then I was part of, I founded a couple of startups before. Initially, I worked for an auditing company. So it was a lot of accounting work, finance, which was really interesting and a lot of learning lessons, but it made me realize that I didn't want to work for a company. So that's when I decided to start my own company and go through that different route. So personally, I have become, let's say, an expert in concrete printing, but I didn't study engineering or anything like that. But my partner and co-founder, Ashish, he's an architect, but he also has a technical background. Back in India, architects are very technical. They're also somehow engineers.
Okay.
And also he's a PhD researcher at Alto University in Finland. So that's how we combine, the business side and the technology side.
So the business side, I guess, is you're primarily responsible for the business side of Hyperion Robotics. And so what's the main business plan, I guess, more or less, for a better word? Do you guys plan on trying to do single projects for people, or do you want to make your money off the software, or are you selling the extruder head, or what's your plan there?
Yeah. What we're offering right now, it's basically printing services. So we're helping clients to design and 3D print custom-made elements for architecture and construction. And we our goal is to keep doing these kind of projects there's different kinds. So we have some focus on the infrastructure side. For example, if you are a contractor that needs let's say a part of a pipe that needs to be produced and you don't have a mold for it and you need it for tomorrow, then we can print that for you and then we ship it. But at the same time, if we're talking about a larger scale project where it would make sense to ship the robot to the site and print there, we call it like a pop-up factory. We would take the robot there and we would massively print different structures. If we talk about the housing industry, it could be more of a service model. But in the end, our end goal is to provide these systems globally, so we can also scale and push our technology around the world.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You cut out, I guess the internet cut out for a little bit right after you said our main goal with the houses, and I was really interested in what you were going to say.
I wonder what I missed or what you missed. I think what I probably what you didn't hear was that our end goal is to massively deploy our systems around the world.
No, I heard that part. I heard that part. It was the part before that, something about
the housing. Okay, so the housing. What I said that, for example, if there's a large scale project, which is
Pop-up
something.
I heard that.
So we would send our system, our robot over there to the site, and then we will massively produce the different elements needed for the houses. For example, the walls, inner and outer walls. So that's it.
So if you face a project like that, for the materials, will you ship all of the concrete in, or will you source some of it locally?
It depends. It depends. If, for example, there's one project we are discussing where part of the components of our mix are very difficult to get locally, if not impossible. So we found a manufacturer. We found that it was possible to get these components from India. So shipping them to Africa would be much cheaper than trying to get it locally, just because of difficulties in terms of logistics. So that's a very specific case. But since we use concrete, we can really get the main components everywhere. So if we have a project somewhere else in Europe, we can talk with a local plant instead of having to ship the concrete bags from Finland, right?
So are you in Finland right now?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where you do most of your projects?
Well, that's where we do our R&D. That's where we're a Finnish company. So yeah, some of our projects are local, but the interest and the need is global. So we're also working with companies in Europe and then around the world.
Yeah. So in Finland, English isn't the primary language, right? English is your second language?
I believe so. Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not Finnish,
Okay.
but yeah, and I don't speak Finnish. It's a pretty tough language.
Where are you from?
I'm from Peru.
Okay, Peru. And you
Yeah,
speak Peruvian?
Spanish.
Spanish. Okay. I speak
Yeah.
a little bit of Spanish from my years in high school, but
Okay.
not too
Do
much.
you remember?
Um, Tengo un poquito español porque tengo español en escuela por 7 años y
Okay.
en universidad y colegio muchas de mis compadres están de comunidades que hablan español. Uh,
Ah.
Practico en conversación un poquito, pero mi gramático está mal.
Bueno, podemos practicar español también.
Gracias. But please, if we can continue in English, I think that'd be better.
Let's go back to English. Yeah.
So it sounds like you built a really strong value network around the software and the people developing 3D models. So people go to you with concepts of what they want to print, and sometimes it's not feasible with traditional methods. And so you use the value network and the software and the people that you've kind of brought together to work on with the Kuka robotic arm and your extruder to get results that they really wouldn't be able to get as quickly elsewhere.
Right.
So I guess the house, is that a long-term, like, is your focus in construction, or is your focus on kind of whatever it needs to be in the moment?
Right now we have a couple of main focuses, and so it's basically construction elements. For again, going back to this example of the infrastructure, right? If you need one custom-made element for your construction or infrastructure project, then you can come to us and then we can do it for you. And the reason behind that is that current processes, the current process to produce one of these elements is that you need either a custom-made mold that it would take like 1 to 2 months to manufacture, usually from a company in Germany, right, where the biggest mold manufacturers are, and then ship it to wherever you are located. And the other thing is that if you want to use a formwork, for example, for a column, just the process of putting together the formwork, inner shutter, outer shutter, pouring the concrete, manually placing the rebar, that's crazy. But it's insane. You probably have experience with it, and it's also very labor intensive. At least 4 people have to be involved. When we can just print it in less than an hour. So that's where we believe that we can bring a lot of value, and and comparing to traditional methods, it's a huge change. And in terms of housing, which is what I can see you're most interested about, it depends. We're interested in the large scale projects, for example, affordable housing in Africa. Some we are currently discussing to develop. Again, it would be a little bit more than a pop-up factory. We would bring our systems there and develop the entire project with the help of local contractors and engineers. So that's something that we're also looking into.
Sure. So the ultimate, like, how many Hyperion robots do you have right now around the world?
We have a few. We have around the world. Ours we have three, but we have deployed different systems around the world.
And you print primarily in concrete. Have you experimented with any other types of materials?
Well, we personally have experience working with ceramics, clay, plastic, and metal. And this goes back to my partner's experience in 3D printing. So he has printed with all these kinds of materials. But at Hyperion, we're mainly focusing on concrete. We know that it's possible also to do some plaster printing and get some pretty unique shapes and elements. But yeah, that's our focus right now.
Sure. So what other startups did you get involved with before you were in Hyperion?
I first founded an online grocery store.
Okay, cool.
Called it would be pronounced Prix in French, but or Prix, but the English sounds weird, Prix. I found a big problem back in Peru, in my country, where just going to grocery stores was really bad experience, right? Really bad traffic. So there was nothing to buy your groceries online. So I put it together, designed a website, learned to use Photoshop, and then I hired a developer in India that helped me build the website.
Wow.
Yeah,
It worked.
and it worked. Yeah,
That's terrific. And so you were located in Lima, Peru, or a different city?
Yeah, in Lima, in the capital.
And did you step away from that startup or?
Yeah. What happened is that I believe it wasn't really good timing for that kind of startup, because there was still not a lot of internet or e-commerce penetration locally. So people weren't very used to buying online. And also there's not the infrastructure, like the tech infrastructure that you have in the US with PayPal, Stripe, and all these, payment gateways. So I would have had to charge in cash. So it was a lot more difficult, and would have required a lot of funding and teaching people. So what happened is that I told my very nice early adopters that I was going to shut down. So they were very sad, and me too, but it was a great learning experience. So the company was shut down. And then after that, what happened is that I didn't know what to do. I knew that I wanted to found another company. I was looking for a job, but nothing came up. So I decided to sell my car, and I moved to Silicon Valley. I booked an Airbnb and I moved.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so is that where you came up with the idea for Hyperion, or?
No, well, in San Francisco first, in the Valley, and then in San Francisco, I was doing different jobs to pay the rent. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah, sure, of course.
And then the next company I founded, or I co-founded, was Cazza, this 3D printing company. So that's
Cazza.
Cazza.
I remember Cazza. Now we're getting into something really interesting to me. The Cazza, that company kind of blew up, and it got a lot of media publicity at one point. It was one of the first companies that a lot of people heard of involved in this space, especially in America. And then I guess a couple years ago, you really don't hear anything about Cazza construction anymore. So please go ahead.
Yeah, well, really what I can say is that sometimes partnerships don't work as you want them to work. So I just decided to move on and founded Hyperion after that. But yeah, as you're saying, there was a lot of media attention that we got, and I guess it was a bit early, I guess, in terms of the technology compared to the potential that was expected as well.
Yeah, certainly. But they had developed the robot that was in all the pictures, or was that a rendering?
The picture, the picture of the robot, yeah, it was a drawing.
It was a drawing, the one on the tracks.
Right.
It almost looked like a little bit similar to the Hyperion robot, but it was looked like a tank combined with it too.
Yeah, it was interesting because some people said that it looked like a weapon, like
Yeah.
we could sell it to the Pentagon or something.
It's an interesting analogy because there are some people who kind of look at like the automation like a weapon that they're afraid of. But yeah, I mean, the Pentagon's interested in automated construction, certainly. They've been they've done projects with a couple different companies in America, I guess just experimenting with the capabilities. They don't release too many details from them, so who really knows what's going on with that. But you were involved early on in Cazza, and you were there in Silicon Valley, I guess just kind of in the trying to raise money for the most part in the beginning.
Do you mean why I was there, or
No? Well, when you were with Hyperion, you guys were still raising money to develop the printer, or did you run out of money? Did you run out of like engineers?
No. Well, when I started the company, I was still back in New York. But yeah, one of the things that I learned was to be close to where the development was happening. So that's when I decided to move to Europe. And yeah, since my partner and all the connection to the local university and research is in Finland, then that's when I made the move.
Yeah, definitely. I can see how important it would be to be like around the project so you can stay involved on a day-to-day basis. So now, what made you decide to go to Finland?
Yeah, great question. Well, there's a bunch of things. Finland is one of the leading countries in construction technologies. For example, some of the leading companies in precast technology are Finnish.
Sure.
And one of the main reasons I went there was because there's great talent. For example, my co-founder is based in Finland as well, and this connection and partnership that we have with Alto University is a big plus. So yeah, it's a combination of there's a great startup environment there. Some really interesting companies have come out of Finland, like Angry Birds and and what else? There's a Supercell, the gaming company, huge company. Nokia, of course, but now they have changed a little bit. But I guess from the beginning of Nokia was when all these engineers and a huge pool of talent came up. So that's still there, and that's huge for us.
That's fascinating. So how did you meet your co-founder?
I met him through a friend a couple of years ago. First, actually, this friend was working with me before, and then we met. I met Ashish at the university. I saw his projects, and they were really cool. Some cool 3D printing stuff from plastic to ceramics and things like that. And then I told him, what if you join on a kind of part-time basis. Let's work on a project here and there and see what happens. So we had a project, and I was like, oh wow, okay, this guy's great. And then we became co-founders basically. So it was kind of a testing period, something like that. We became friends as well, and then partners.
So right now, are you operating primarily out of the university?
No. Well, we're constantly moving, actually. The university is one of the locations. Also, we have partnered with another university in Denmark. It's called the Southern Denmark University. Actually, one of the projects that we have announced, which is a summer school, will happen there in a city called Odense. So we also have a location there. But right now, one of our robots is waiting for us in Estonia, where we are going to develop a project. So we're just waiting for things to calm down a little bit.
Certainly.
Right? So, yeah.
So at this point, it's you and your co-founder. And what other team members do you have full-time?
Yeah, we have other 3 team members. So our core team is 5 people, and the other expertises or backgrounds that they have is one is an architect, one is a civil engineer, and software developer. So it's a great combination.
Yeah.
And then the other one is a civil engineer with experience in industrial and infrastructure projects. So we kind of have a very diverse background, with 3D printing, automation, robotics, civil engineering, and business, right?
What's the biggest thing that you've printed?
The biggest thing has been sculpture, actually. It was almost 4 meter tall. Although it was like a modular element, so it was 3 pieces put together. I can show you later. It's a pretty large element.
I can just Google it. What's it called?
Well, it's not online. Unless it's on the website. But it's like a teardrop.
Let's see if I can find it. Where did they print it?
Well, in Czech Republic. It was an event, like an art event. So we printed these elements, and it was all over the city. Different kinds of structures, urban furniture, and things like that.
So if you were to try to give me like an estimate of where most of the people contacting you are from, whether it be construction or more like art projects, or kind of like people like me who are just technology enthusiasts kind of people, how does that, where is the majority?
Just like you, there's a lot of people interested in housing. It's really either developers or people that develop, like project owners, let's say, that they want to build large scale projects, but they don't have the capabilities, either because they're in a country or city where there's not enough skilled workers, or there's just no existing technology to build these kind of projects, right? And then you have the construction side, where they focus more on these custom made elements. So those are the two sides.
Yeah, and I guess the custom made elements, like you said, kind of pipe fittings and stuff like that they need to be sized specifically. Right. What kind of pipe would use concrete?
What kind of pipe? Do you mean for what kind of project, or?
Yeah, for like what would go through the pipe? Like, is that for electrical conduit, or is that for like sewer lines, water lines, gas lines? What?
Yeah, for example, one of them is electrical, for telecom infrastructure. they require these kind of concrete structures or elements where they have to be the water shouldn't go in, so they have to put all the electrical conduits. So these kind, for example.
So the water shouldn't go in. Your concrete is waterproof?
Yeah, it is.
And is it like moist proof or is it completely waterproof?
Well, it depends. It depends. So again, there's different mixes, right? So if in some cases, if we talk about these electrical chambers or boxes, sometimes the concrete is not enough, so we have to add some kind of plastic cover or something. This is something that we don't do as a company, but we partner with someone else to do it with us.
So from a permitting perspective, have you experienced any conversation with municipalities in Finland about how comfortable they are with this kind of technology being used in construction?
Well, we have started conversations, like everybody, they are very conservative. They're open to exploring, and one of the main points that they're interested in is the sustainability part of 3D printing, and the reason is that Finland is a country that focuses a lot on sustainability. They want to do everything energy renewable with renewable energy, and the concrete has cement, which is a very polluting material in its production. So if there's a way to reduce this material by a large percentage and on a large scale, then that's something that they're interested in. So that's where we are trying to attack, and go to these authorities and tell them, look, this technology, this new solution is much better for the environment as well.
Yeah, it always gets so tricky when you want to talk about an environmental approach, because with things like the technology that makes things environmental, like solar panels or lithium-ion batteries and stuff, some people aren't considering the amount of emissions that it costs to develop these technologies.
That's true.
I don't know, it's for me, since I'm not an expert, I try not to think about it too much, even because I can't tell which one is actually going to be the least emissions in the end. I know that concrete has emissions while it's curing, but beyond that, most of the aggregates are pretty organic, right? Most of the other parts going into the concrete are fairly organic, and pretty available, like sand, limestone kind of materials.
And cement, right?
The cement is the bad part.
What the environmentalists or sustainable people don't really like much. But again, there are some alternatives out there, like in industrial waste. Or there are several mixes of concrete that don't require cement. But it goes back to the market, right? And if the people that are paying money for the projects are not comfortable yet to using these kind of amazing products because they work, and then we have to find a way to adjust it, and maybe use less cement on the projects, but still be able to deliver what they need.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but winters in Finland get pretty cold, right?
Oh yeah.
So as far as insulation, have you considered those solutions for that?
Yeah, well, insulation right now, it's just as traditional. That's nothing new, or at least we haven't developed anything on that regard. But there's a few possibilities. We can, as you have seen in other 3D printing examples, the walls are hollow, right? So
Yeah.
there's space where we can place some kind of foam, for example. At the same time, if you want to automate the process, we can have another robot that is 3D printing, in a way, the foam. So it really depends case by case.
Yeah, some of the walls are hollow. A lot of them use kind of like the zigzag feature, or some kind of like corrugated centerpiece.
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't that mess with the R value of the insulation if there's a solid piece of cement going through from one side to the other?
Yeah. Great question. and really, again, it depends case by case, right? So in Finland, you'll probably see some projects soon. But if it messes up and I have to really check, then we would print it in a different way, right? It's not necessary to have this zigzag in every structure that we build. But yeah, if we talk about a project where we don't need insulation, like in Africa, for example, then the printing is fine. Just the concrete is enough, right?
Yeah, certainly. It'll be interesting seeing as you guys are in Finland and kind of like definitely trying to do some projects in Finland, I'm sure, how you're going to kind of work around the weathering problem. Have you tested the concrete in the winter and like freezing it and thawing it?
Well, we are currently testing it. Now it's getting warmer, so it's not going to help that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should. Since we're based in Finland, that's definitely one of the things we want to get right.
Definitely. I saw you did one project that had a beaded structure, so it was like instead of solid layers, they were going back and forth. Is there a structural effect that has, or is that just for design purposes?
What was it like these kind of patterns, or?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is something that comes from my partner's research, which is it's part of our software as well. So we have developed some algorithms that can produce these kind of patterns and shapes, and the result is really a combination of this aesthetic looking, but at the same time is structural. So it helps the structure to be more stable, so it's a combination. So that's a great thing of this thing.
Is there any way to quantify the structural difference, or is it not that scientific yet?
It's let's say I would say it's in progress. We're continuously testing and developing it, so we will probably show some results soon.
Yeah, I mean, this whole industry is in progress completely. It's like certainly everything is still a work in progress. That being said, I guess, is there any plans that you have for a different printer in the future?
We do, and it depends. It depends on the kind of project that we're focusing on.
Yeah.
For example, the robotic arms that we use are they're pretty big. We have pretty big ranges, and we can build very large objects. We can build entire houses if needed. But yeah, later, as you know, it's the market is evolving. The industry is evolving, and right now the structures are kind of small or smaller scale, right? There's a couple of large buildings, like 2-story buildings, which are really cool. But then it's gonna have to become feasible to print entire buildings. So I definitely see changes in the printers, and yeah, I'm sure you'll see we will all see some very cool stuff happening very soon.
Yeah, definitely. Well, what other projects do you guys have? Like, what are you working on right now?
There's one very interesting project. I don't know if you have seen on the website, but we have this marine restoration project with artificial reefs. So this is maybe not that related to construction, but there is this problem that is not, very well known around the world, where the coral reefs are the source of income and food for 1 billion people around the world. And because of global warming and because of rising CO2 levels, they're dying. And basically, the type of software that we have developed allow us to recreate or reproduce these reefs in an artificial way with concrete. So we're working on right now with a few marine biologists is to put together some of these reefs, and then we're going to put them underwater and then test and monitor, how this helps facilitating and, regrowing life underwater. So it's something very cool. And if we want to do the link, somehow to construction, is that this reefs, besides, helping underwater life, they also become marine barriers. When there's, for example, in Florida or in Texas, when you have all these hurricanes and disasters, natural disasters, these reefs also protect the shores from these disasters. So it's something really cool that is coming soon.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. And I'm looking at the models you have now. It's interesting because it's not like normal concrete that would be a solid block. There's so many nooks and crannies and spaces that things could get stuck. I don't know much about marine life, but I've been scuba diving a few times, and
Okay.
coral reefs are beautiful. I know that there's all kinds of statistics about how they're dying at like an unprecedented rate. So it's good that you guys are focusing on kind of the environment and the strong suits where you can really have a positive impact.
Yeah.
Certainly. I guess you haven't put them in the water yet?
Not yet. We probably once they open the borders, then or even before, we could probably ship them and put them underwater.
And you're putting them underwater where?
It's in Europe.
Okay.
But you'll see.
All right. I will see. So what's the smallest thing that you've printed that was for like customer?
The smallest thing, it was like a vase, very small. In US metrics would be like 1 foot, or 30 centimeters, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can print very small stuff, but since the robots allow us to print very big, then that's really what we focus on.
When you make the pop-up factory to print stuff on site, what's the build setup time of that?
So once everything arrives, we can have it up in a few hours.
So pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty quick.
And then within that structure, what's the print volume that you're able to accomplish? I know that you can print things modularly, so you can have it on site and then just like forklift it to wherever its final resting place is. But within the apparatus, at one time with one object, what's the size?
Yeah, so if it's stationary, then it has a radius of 3.9 meters.
Oh, big.
Yeah, it's a pretty big robot. And then the height, it's also 3.9, and if mounted on some kind of platform, it can go up to 4-5 meters.
I guess the tallest structure you mentioned you built was 4 meters?
Yeah.
So far?
Yeah.
Is there anything that you keep with you that's 3D printed, like anything in your house? Like
I have one printing head in my house. concrete. That's interesting.
You ever brought
Actually,
anything
no.
home from work?
No, I don't. But I should. I will. I'll remember that.
Maybe it's better to keep your work at work and just have you stay focused on your home life at home.
Yeah. I think that helps.
So, yeah, I'm sure there's all kinds of projects you guys are working on that are kind of like at a halt point right now. Um, what's the climate like in Finland? Like, are people going outside and like comfortable or?
Yeah, it's not that bad, um, because they put the restrictions from the beginning, so people can go out, and it's all right. Of course, everybody's mainly working from home, which is really fine, and yeah, there's not so many cases, for example, of coronavirus. So yeah, we're just waiting for things to calm down. But for now, just working from home.
Yeah. So you have some partnerships. You have your partnership with the university. Um, I was just looking at the page. Two universities, also University of Southern Denmark.
Yeah,
So, or is there like a printer there too, and they have a group of students working with it, or?
exactly. Yeah, there are some PhD students working there. Um,
Maybe that was the video that I initially saw, like a project they were doing with your printer. I guess I thought that they were developing Hyperion Robotics over there or something, but really they were just using the printer that you had.
maybe, yeah.
Sorry about that
What?
mistake.
No worries. Well, I guess it's the beam, right? That this project. Well, on one hand, we think that it's definitely very important to keep that academic side, to keep to stay in touch with this academic side, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of research that has to be done. The guys at the Southern University of Denmark, they focus on robotics and architecture, so they also have experience in different kinds of materials as well, different kinds of manufacturing methods. So that's why we have partnered with them. And yeah, the beam was one of the projects that we did, where the goal was to, of course, reduce times compared to traditional building. We did it in 40 minutes approximately, when not real, but the traditional method would probably take 1, 2, 3 days, depending on the project, right? We also optimized the design, so we would use less concrete, and we basically used 40% less concrete than a full concrete element.
And did you use any rebar?
Not in this case, but definitely we would have had to add some rebar, since the element has to be, changed, and placed in the structure. So the way it would work is, we would actually use the printed element as a formwork,
Yeah.
and then place the rebar inside, and then just pour the concrete.
Yeah, sure. Similarly, you could just put insulation in between walls the same way, whatever.
Right.
So what's the cure time for a layer before you can print the next layer on top with your material?
Yeah, and it depends again.
On which one?
It depends on the mix. It depends on the structure as well, and we just adapt it depending on what we're printing. But for example, in this case of the beam, the it wasn't very thick structure. So very quickly there was going to be another layer going up. But then there are some projects where we printed much larger elements, where the next layer took, for example, 5 minutes, or even 5 to 10 minutes to go to the next one. So again, it's all about playing with the times, with the speed of printing, and with the materials.
Yeah, so you're using a third-party pump. I know you mentioned. Is that a pump from a big company, or is that a pump from another company similar to Hyperion?
It's from a German company. Again, we have used different pumps. This is the latest that we have used. There are similar of these out there, but I would say they are somehow large.
So what are the biggest challenges you guys are facing?
Um, well, now the lockdown,
Yeah, certainly. That's given.
right? Um, but I'm confident that things will, get. I don't know
Yeah.
if we can say back to normal, but back to the new normal, right? Um, and what other challenges? Definitely, building codes, right? But more than building codes, I would say the way the industry is, right? Construction is very conservative. They're happy with what they have been doing for the past decades, if not centuries,
Yeah.
right? So it's that's definitely a big challenge, and we believe that the way to to go over that is by showing, by working together with these companies that are already in the construction industry, engineering firms, construction companies, developers, and showing them that it really works, that they're saving money and that they can make more money as well. And then that it's a much more sustainable process, much more efficient. So it's just a process. It takes time, but we are seeing great results with the other companies in the industry as well. So that's, I would say, the main challenge.
Yeah. I guess another big challenge is just kind of not just the construction industry, but also just people as a whole accepting it as a construction method. In America, it's like the real estate industry is kind of locked down with construction. There's only so many different types of houses and styles that different houses fit into, whether it's like an A-frame or a colonial style or a Tudor
Right.
style, and there's like they all fit into these kind of categories. I guess it'll be really interesting to see from a design perspective how 3D printed houses will fit in. Will they try to mirror the old categories of design, or will they be able to create their own new category that involves more curved edges and maybe kind of automated details that aren't efficient for a person to implement? Your team, I guess, is more heavy engineering focused, but what about like creative design focused? Are you mostly a scientific and engineering company, or are you also a creative company?
Well, on this service that we provide of 3D printing, we also help our clients on the design side. And we have two architects and designers on our team. So design is definitely a big thing for us. And as you were saying, we really think that if people want to build like the designs, like old kind of designs, maybe 3D printing is not the best option. If you want just a squared house, there's probably better technologies to do it, like precast. You can order these walls, just flat walls, like a square, and it may be much more efficient. It depends, right? It depends where you are, but definitely the type of curvy designs, the structures that require very complex formwork. That's where 3D printing is much more efficient.
If somebody has a concept for a project that they want 3D printed and they want to contact you and ask for a project, what are some expectations that they should set for themselves to be realistic?
Um, well, they have to realize that 3D printing is still like in progress in terms of development. So not everything is possible. We can do very complex things, very complex designs, textures, patterns, and shapes. But but they also have to realize that we have to work together. So it's not just that they come with a design and we will print it, but we'll work with them. We're going to help them to adjust that to be 3D printable, and then that we're going to help them with their project. So it has to be a process to get to where we can really create with our systems.
So in general, is most of the expense in the design process or the printing process?
What do you mean? Like the time we spend, or
The cost to a customer that you have?
it really depends. It depends on the complexity of the project.
Yeah.
Definitely there is a design part, but sometimes the design is almost ready to print, so there's not much to do, right? So yeah.
If someone was trying to design an STL file to print on your printer, or does your printer take STL files?
Yeah.
So how would they go about doing that?
Well, some people just come with a STL file ready and they send it to us, and then we have to adjust it. But usually the best way is to start with a drawing or a concept. They come to us, and then we can give them some like set of guidelines and tell them, look, this is what we can do. This is the kind of things that can be printed, and this is a way that you have to design it so it's ready to be printed. Or we can just tell them, these are the things we can do. Give us your initial concept, and then from there we will adjust it and make it ready to be printed.
So do you use a custom slicer to convert the STL into like a G code?
Yeah, so that's part of our software. That we can really take any kind of 3D file and then translate it into a 3D printable.
Have you done any printing with supports?
We have. We did one, some kind of sphere that we did. It was actually a base for the larger structure that I was talking to you about. And it needed some support, so we just put some kind of foam below that then was removed. But other than that, no.
Wow, so it was as simple as that. You just put a light foam underneath to print over. Did that make it much harder to program?
No, it just made it a little bit more complex in terms of the process, because we needed two people that were there adding the foam constantly and making sure that the layers weren't gonna fall. But we have learned that that's something that just adjusting the material, we can make it work without any supports.
By just being careful about how much overlap is on each layer, or?
Yeah, well, it's a combination of the flow control that is something that we can do with the software, but also with the mix. All right, so in that case, I believe it wasn't curing as fast as what we needed. So that's why we just had to adjust it with these in a manual way, right?
Yeah. Very interesting. I've never actually seen a 3D printer printing in concrete, so that's.
Oh, really?
One day I will, but that day hasn't come yet. I had a lot of travel plans that were canceled. I guess I feel like if I get on a plane right now for something non-essential, it might not be a good move.
Yeah, I guess not yet. You should wait a little bit. But yeah, it would be great if you could come, visit us and see our robots in action.
I would love to do that. Are there any projects, like, do you think you'll ever do a project in Peru, maybe?
Possibly. Latin America in general, there's a huge potential in terms of affordable housing. So we're definitely um, we're already talking to some people there in Peru and then in a couple of other countries. So that's mainly the focus over there. So possibly.
Peru's mountains are a pretty big logistical challenge for 3D printed construction, right?
Well, Peru is a really complex country. You have the coast, which is flat, is desert,
Okay.
the desert, I mean, and then you have the mountains, which is yeah, it's really crazy. The Andes, really complex logistics would be, and very high altitude. So it would be complicated over there. But then you also have the jungle, the rainforest. But again, it really depends on where we're building. If it's in the coast, it's pretty easy. So that may hurdles in that sense, but maybe in the mountains would be a bit more difficult.
Yeah. Does Peru get like hurricanes similar to Florida or not so bad?
What happens in Peru is that we have El Nino. Are you familiar?
I've heard El Nino before, but I thought that was the name of a hurricane, maybe historically in America. But please educate me.
Yeah, of course. So every couple of years, what happens is that the water warms. It gets warm, and then the water levels rise, and then you have all these kind of different disasters like mudslides, and it just destroys everything. And this happens all the time. So one of the big problems is that it destroys a lot of houses of low income families, and these have to be rebuilt. There's actually this happened a couple of years ago in the north of Peru, and there was a large budget that was put together for this kind of restoration project, but not much has been done. And I think it's a combination of lack of effort, but also there's no real technology locally and skilled workers that can build this kind of massive scale building. So it's definitely a huge opportunity for 3D printing.
Yeah, certainly, especially since the concrete houses would probably be able to weather a mudslide much
Oh
better.
yeah,
So
yeah,
heavy.
better than the way they're built today. Yeah.
So it's interesting that Peru has such a cyclical, like hurricane pattern. Um, it must take them so long to recover from that every time, months and months, in order for people to all be comfortable again back in a new house. I
Yeah,
guess it would be
years,
really
I would say.
transformative. It would be transformative for the country to not have to deal with that problem so frequently anymore. And I don't know, is that a realistic goal in like the next 10 to 20 years, do you think?
I think so. I think so. It's a great point that you make, because if what happens is that in many cases they also give money to people locally so they can build on their own. So the kind of buildings that are being built or the kind of homes that are being built are also like not not well built for seismic um, things that happen. Peru is a very seismic country, so we have earthquakes all the time. And if you don't have a properly reinforced house, then one not very strong earthquake can just take your house down. And if we or the country plans out some development project where you're going to have these houses built properly, then that's going to help not just once, for that next year where you're going to get that disaster, but it's going to be more of a long-term solution. So I think it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. There's so many particular use cases in different parts of the world that have huge benefit from this technology, and they're also different. Like in Peru, if it's like a lot of other parts of South America, you can find access to labor much easier than you can in like Europe or Finland, right?
Yeah.
So even though you don't have as much labor added benefit, they need a more structural secure house than what the laborers are currently building. And then in other places like you're in Finland where there's a huge cost for labor there, right?
Right.
Maybe even I think higher than in America. And in America
I
it's
think
getting
so.
crazy too. So many different places have different reasons that automated construction can add value. It's just going to be interesting seeing which ones arise first. Like there's going to be some first big community that's going to be 3D printed. And I
Yeah.
guess hopefully the project goes well, and it stands for many years. And then other people won't really see I don't think they'll really see the big benefits of it until it's right in front of them like that.
Yeah, it's like any new technology, it requires some early adopters. I think the biggest one is people that are interested in the design side, right? Because of the capabilities of printing. But then affordable housing is also a huge one. But it's a matter of identifying those communities that are really willing to, take that kind of risk and build the first 3D printed communities.
Yeah, we live in a big world. There has to be some community that wants to get started with it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of amazing to me that there hasn't been a bigger development started up by now. Just because, I mean, in the past couple of years alone, I'm sure you've seen, being involved with Hyperion, you guys have more competitors now than ever.
Yeah. There's some other companies as well doing really cool stuff. Many of them focusing on housing, which makes sense because it's a massive market. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's I guess it takes time, but very soon we're gonna see some very large projects. And
Yeah, a lot of them say they're focused on housing, but like a lot of companies just say a lot of things. Some of them say they're focused on building on Mars. Um,
yeah,
there's a big difference between what the companies say they're going to do and what actually ends up happening, I guess. The first lesson I got in that was with Cazza construction, seeing I thought that was so promising. They even had listings on different websites with like a multi-million-dollar valuation. Like it seemed like the real deal. And then just stopped getting news. Is there a place that you'd like to send people, like somewhere they can go online to see more information or to contact you?
yeah. I would like people to visit our website to learn more about us, and if they want to start a project, they can just reach out to us. If they're just curious about what we're doing, then just email us. We'll be happy to get in touch. If they want to partner with us, also we're pretty big on partnerships, so that's also something that we want. And then also social media. We post a lot on Instagram, LinkedIn. So follow us on our pages, Hyperion Robotics, and yeah.
So I took the other video that I made that was like 30 companies doing 3D printed construction, 28 companies, whatever, and I just chopped it up that it was one of each company. And some of them performed like incredibly well. Like one got 1.2 million views.
Oh, really?
Other ones got in the hundreds of thousands. I'm looking for the Hyperion Robotics one. It was the footage from the students, and it was like really blurry footage, so it only got 6,000 views. But do you guys have any like better footage that you could send me over of like printer working?
Take a look at our. Do you have Instagram?
Yeah. Yes.
So check out our website, our page, I mean, and we have some really cool stuff there. I think unfortunately the beam printing is like the worst quality video that we have.
Yeah.
Uh, Still, we got like millions of views on Instagram, like third parties that shared it. But we have some other cool ones that are much better quality, and then you can see the printer in action. So just let me know, and if you want the file, I can send it to you.
There's another person that says they're Hyperion Robotics from the University of Western Macedonia.
Yeah, yeah, so that's interesting. They are, or maybe that's how you thought it was a university
Yeah.
project. It's they are a robotics group from a Greek university, but they did something different.
I got to figure out how to download videos from Instagram. There's got to be a way to do that.
I think there's a way to share them as a post. I don't know exactly how, but again, just let me know which one, and I can share it with you.
Okay, cool. Are you the person who operates that Instagram account?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to follow it right now, and I'll message you
Yeah, yeah, text me there.
to get an image. Cool. Yeah, I'll post some of those and we'll see how they do on TikTok. I don't know. It's like some will blast off and then other ones are just like so. I'm kind of just trying to build whatever audience I can around 3D printed construction and help the whole industry like get more attention, because I think that it's like everybody involved in it is doing so much engineering work and so much like science and technology stuff that they aren't focusing on like marketing as much. I guess I'll definitely stay in touch with you throughout future projects. I'd love to um, maybe even do another video like this in the future when you guys have like kind of got some more progress, have some more stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe even down the line with a different team member or someone so that it could be a different focus instead of a business focus, maybe a software focus or engineering focus.
Yeah, maybe with my partner. He's also a professor at the university.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So he's used to to speaking and teaching. So he would be more. He's an architect as well. So it would be a combination of architecture and also the 3D printing and technology side. So yeah.
Yeah, I know you mentioned like you guys talk about the connection you have with the university. I think it's great that you work with the university because then it gives students access to this kind of technology where they would never have it otherwise. And then you're kind of fueling the future engineers that are going to be working here.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. And yeah, maybe the people that are not very happy to to change in the industry will have to change, because the new people that are joining the industry already have that mentality of automated processes and 3D printing and robotics.
Yeah, definitely. It'll help the process for sure. And it's just good to see, I mean, even if it doesn't help Hyperion Robotics specifically, like maybe those students are working with you and they end up working for a different company, but it helps the whole industry, which is going to ultimately benefit Hyperion when more people see that this technology is valid.
Exactly.
There's a lot of other people in this space that have kind of a similar mindset to you and like thinking it's better to kind of share the technology with people and build the whole space. But then there's other people that are trying to like really lock it up with patents and be very secretive and hold everything they have to themselves. Have you guys implemented like a patent strategy, or are you kind of just not too concerned about that right now?
Well, yeah, we do. We have a patent strategy, but yeah, what we're patenting, we're not showing it. So I think it has to be a combination, right? Some people, as you say, are not showing absolutely anything, or they just show the end product, which is also cool. But we're trying to show as much as possible, and whatever we're patenting, we're just keeping it for ourselves.
How do you foresee the patent environment in this space going forward?
Well, Yeah, that's a great question, and we need some lawyer help here. Um, I think that technology changes so fast that in a year things will be completely different. In a few years, we're gonna see some crazy stuff, some crazy robots that are gonna be completely different. So I think that the patenting, the IP strategy helps you. Um, Mainly if you are a smaller company like us compared to larger construction companies or whoever's or tech companies trying to
Sure.
get into the space. Something that we have to do along the process to stay protected instead of getting copied by someone bigger, and then we cannot do anything, right? But if we have the patents, then we can stay safe somehow while we get to that next generation technology that again it's constantly evolving. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, patents are fascinating because they're changing faster than ever before since there's so much innovation these days.
Yeah,
Like two people can invent the same thing at the same time and not know it, and then one of them is
yeah,
infringing a patent. Who knows? Like it's such a tricky thing, and it's fascinating how there's some really old patents around automated construction. So those
yeah.
are all expired now, and I don't know. I This is probably going to sound terrible for you, but I'm excited to see the first like legal battles on where the like how it ends up. Um, Obviously, uh, I don't want anyone to get like harmed. I don't want any 3D printed construction companies to get harmed from a legal battle like that. I hope that it goes like maybe the patent, like I don't know. I would just hope the whole technology progresses together.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's better if it's somehow, not exactly open source, but the companies are allowed to develop their technology and to execute their projects without having a large company that they just realize that 3D printing is amazing, so they want to lawyer up and sue some smaller company or just patent something that somebody else has developed, right?
Yeah, that's where it
Which
seems really unfair to me. From it
Yeah,
seems like the big companies have a major advantage in the patent space because they have more money allocated towards lawyers and stuff that they already have in retainer and that are specializing in patents, whereas a smaller company is so focused on their day-to-day developments that I mean, it's too bad that patents have to be something that they have to focus on.
right. Yeah, I completely agree. And so I don't know if the patenting process or the whole environment is going to change at some point. Hopefully, because technology changes so fast that also these old, patenting processes they have to change. But I think that's another problem that hopefully someone else solves.
Have you done any work with the Finnish government? Like, are they promoting you, doing projects with you guys, or?
One of the big things of Finland that I didn't mention is that they're also pretty big in helping startups, technology companies. So they provide funding and they promote you to local companies. So definitely we're involved with them. Not yet on projects, at least not publicly. Yeah, we're discussing something related to sustainability with them. So that's probably something we would make public at some point.
Definitely. You mentioned partners. What
Uh-huh.
kind of partnerships are you guys seeking right now?
Well, um, it's basically companies, people that are in the industry or that want to become part of the industry. Either companies looking to develop these large scale projects, housing projects or infrastructure projects, and really that they know that construction has to change. So we want this kind of mentality with the people that we partner with. Uh, so we can really take our technology and our mission of bringing automation and sustainability to construction much further. So so from a local perspective, let's say in Europe, but also globally, right?
Yeah. I like to tell people when I'm talking about 3D printed construction, just like talking to people who don't know much about it, I say, when you look at a picture of the construction of a house 100 years ago and you compare it to a picture of house construction today, the only difference is that one of the pictures is in color.
So it's just the same.
Yeah. So it's pretty much the same. The camera technology has developed faster than the construction technology. And construction is such a more important industry than cameras, at least in my perspective.
Yeah.
And according to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, shelter is pretty important to people.
Yeah.
So people looking to invest in Hyperion Robotics, how is that a possibility?
Yeah. Well, that's also definitely one of the type of partnerships we're open to. If somebody wants to invest, they can just reach out to us. Yeah, it can be a combination of someone that has a background in the industry, but not necessarily. Can also be somebody that likes the technology and can help us take our vision further.
So to take you back to your Silicon Valley days for a second, are you guys in a seed round of funding right now, or would you call it an A round?
I would say seed.
Seed still.
Yeah.
And so you have gotten private funding, or you're still just working with like personal investments?
We have raised some funding. Yeah.
Are you allowed to talk about the valuation, the current valuation of the company?
No, not really. So basically, that would be more open or public once the Series A happen, right?
Have you thought about doing any kind of like crowdsourced funding, like Seed Invest or those websites?
We have looked into it, um, but yeah, I really don't know. It's definitely a possibility, but we're not doing that right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely clear that you guys are focused heavily on the engineering technology aspects, and providing still like the services that people need when they're contacting you for kind of like last minute things maybe, and also extremely custom design things.
Yeah, and really by providing these services, just developing new use cases, right? So the people that maybe are still not too open to using this new technology, then later on they're gonna say like, okay, this makes a lot of sense. So let's go to them.
Yeah, do you guys ever plan on sharing a like catalog of publishable models?
Like designs, like
Yeah, I'm sure at this point you've tested a bunch of different designs, and so you know which ones work, which ones don't.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a part of your business plan, maybe, or?
It's definitely a possibility. We have some things that we have already built, so maybe we will. I don't know if like a catalog, like an e-commerce page.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, as different use cases that we can show our clients. So we should have some stuff like that soon on our website.
Cool. All right, I'll look out for that. Thank you for having this conversation with me. I really appreciate that you took the time to answer all my questions. It's clear you kind of like put thought into the questions. You weren't just giving me like BS answers, and I appreciate that.
No, thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate what you're doing. It's really great. And actually, can you tell me a bit about you and your background?
Yeah, I first kind of started in construction management jobs that I worked while I was in college. So those were all kind of desk jobs, and it was like really background stuff. I kind of got started in auditing of construction projects.
Oh, really?
Not not dissimilar to what you were doing. I was auditing the payroll. It was like one of my first real jobs, and I was like looking at what each subcontractor was getting paid and paying their employees versus what they reported to the general contractor, versus what they reported in their taxes. So
Wow.
It was an interesting job, and I definitely got an interesting insight into how construction works, but I wanted to get more hands-on experience on the job site. So right now I'm working as a superintendent, and we're building out a medical doctor's office. It should be. Hopefully it'll be done within the next few months. Everything's obviously really slowed down right now.
Yeah.
So it's been a fascinating couple weeks in construction because a lot of people are afraid of like working right now. For a while, it was really unclear what construction was permitted and what construction wasn't permitted, with everything going on. And every day is like a new surprise. Someone's not there. A lot of stuff going on. But I got interested in automated construction, I guess. A couple of years ago, I saw some video on YouTube of a 3D printed house, and I just thought it was so cool. I guess I've always kind of been interested in automation. I guess just because it makes so much sense, and historically you see so many ways that it helps people. And I guess for some people, they hear automation and it's like going to take the jobs away, but the jobs are always replaced, and it's always creating new jobs. And I don't know, I really believe in efficiency and free market and all that stuff. So to me, it makes a ton of sense. And I guess I just got into it, started researching, realized that my best contribution is probably getting skills on a construction job site, so that once I develop the kind of audience for automated construction, then I can start focusing on construction projects that involve strictly 3D printed construction. So
that's great.
I'm kind of trying to go at it from that perspective. My major in college was business and engineering. So my engineering background is like kind of half engineering, you know? I took the basic like physics and chemistry, and I focused on mechanical engineering. So I took like statics, dynamics, and some of that stuff, but I never got super deep into it. And my degree is still from a business school. So I'm not a competent engineer enough to build my own printer. More focusing on the construction side.
Okay, but that's pretty good, because I guess that's also one of the sides that is lacking in the industry, right?
Yeah, I guess the construction guys that exist right now, they don't want to do 3D printed construction.
No.
So I'm trying to be the construction guy that only does 3D printed construction.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
let me know.
For me, it's not even about the 3D printed part. It's just more about the automated construction.
Yeah, of course.
It just makes the whole process simpler, easier. All the problems in construction are people-based for the most part. Usually the engineers and designers in the back end do a pretty good job, but then on the job site, the way it's built, the as-built is always different from the architectural plans.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the automation just makes so much sense to implement, where it adds so much value here.
Yeah, totally. I wanted to ask you something else. What was it? So, for example, in the kind of projects that you're working on, like this hospital, what would you say is one type of structure that would make like this? It makes a lot of sense to be 3D printed compared to.
Actually, it's not a hospital. It's just a doctor's office.
Doctor's facility. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So the project is mostly a fit out. The building already exists, and it used to be retail stores. So it's just clearing out the retail stores and then building the doctor's office on top of it.
Okay, got it.
What could be 3D printed? I would say a lot of like the desk features. In a doctor's office, everything has to be really sanitary and clean.
Yeah.
And concrete is a really tricky surface to clean because it's porous
Right.
and rough. So I'm not sure in a doctor's office the applications, but if somehow the slab could be printed, that would be a huge, huge development for the industry. But yeah, obviously like the big I-beams and stuff, you can't print those yet. A lot of glass windows. This specific project doesn't really have a lot of automated construction applications.
Okay.
But wiring for like a plumbing for conduit, maybe concrete pipes and stuff, that could add value. And yeah, tricky question.
Yeah. I guess from now on, you can start thinking like that. Like what would make sense to start automating, or maybe as you said, not exactly 3D printed, but like in what way this can be automated, because it can also be robotics. Placing or putting together the structures, not just concrete printing.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to think about it. A lot of the way that I've been thinking about it is kind of from ground up. So like brand new project.
Right.
But definitely in the real world, most projects aren't ground up. So it's super important to come up with the applications that'll just maybe for a fit out. There's a project that's just a retrofit. Have you heard of Brewil?
The Dutch company?
Yeah, they're doing a project where they're just like doing a facade on a building. And so it's not like structural at all. It's just like for looks.
Yeah.
So I think with most retrofitting stuff, most of the value added is like for looks.
Right. Okay. It's more like aesthetic stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is obviously important. Like that building, they're saying it's like such a dated design. People don't want to live there anymore. They're paying low rent because it's like not desirable. But if they can make it desirable again, then it changes the whole environment for people.
Then they can charge a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to me, I love practicality.
Yeah.
And so the main draw for me is like the structural security and the fact that concrete can be structural, so strong in compression. So to use it for just aesthetics, to me is like not a waste, but it's not like
it's not
what
enough.
Technology's best at.
Yeah. I completely agree. Yeah. I guess it's just a way to penetrate in the industry, and but then it's going to become structural, right? Columns, beams, slab as well. The foundations are a big part of buildings, very labor intensive, so it's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, I think down the line, like you said really early on in this conversation, it'll be a combination of robotics printing with different materials.
Yeah.
But that's going to open up a whole new can of worms from a permitting perspective.
Yeah, I don't know how it's that gonna play. Permitting has to change as well. Like the patenting process, the construction permitting has to change, and I guess some kind of tipping point has to happen for them to realize this. We don't know what it is yet, but if not, it's just this process that we have to go through to get there.
Yeah, I mean, when that tipping point does happen, Hyperion has positioned itself well to be already expert in automated concrete printing. So
that's the plan.
You're ready for that spring-loaded like launch when it happens.
Yeah. It's gonna be busy.
But who knows when that'll happen? That could be like 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, 5 years.
Yeah, I think something interesting, for example, what happens with this coronavirus is that it's pretty clear that in the construction site, the least you want is exposure of people. So that's one of the big benefits of 3D printing, right? We don't need a lot of workers. We just need 1 to 2 people to operate the robot. When in a construction site, you have 10 people at least. So that's a huge benefit, and maybe Mother Nature is telling us that things have to change, right?
Yeah, definitely. Less people on the job site is a huge added benefit,
Yeah,
especially because with components like the walls, a lot of times it'll be one guy holding something up and another guy like screwing it in, drilling it. And when they're doing that, it's hard work, so they're breathing heavy. And the heavy breathing is like how a lot of stuff spreads if it's airborne or whatever. So
that's true. Yeah,
having 2 people on a job site instead of 10, and on top of that, they don't have to be close together anymore. They can be separated. That'll add a lot of value. And then once you have that the walls around, you don't have as much heavy lifting to do that requires 2 people. So most of the plumbing and electrical work can be one person kind of on their own rather than more people. I definitely see the value in the virus added value from the need for people to be separated. But the question is, how long-term, how realistic will that need become? Like, is that a year from now, are people still going to want to have limited people on the job sites? You never know.
That's true. I don't know if, again, this is one specific event which has been it's still pretty crazy.
Fascinating.
So we don't know what's going to happen then, but I think something is going to happen that will have to change the mindset of
a catalyst.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time, I think, too.
Yeah.
Or maybe we're just crazy.
I think we have to be. It's the only way.
Yeah. I mean, it is very interesting. You get a lot of kind of like open-minded people in this space. And it's the more people that I get to talk to from it, the more I enjoy it, really, because the more I realize that like a bunch of people after the same goal. Nobody's like making millions and millions of dollars in this industry yet. So everybody's still like getting their footing kind of and like establishing their technology, their engineering. Like it's such an exciting time for the space.
Yeah. I think, it's been a few years already, but it's kind of early, right? And even more in construction, I was talking to a friend who's, he's a civil engineer, and he was telling me it's a Neanderthal industry.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the only way is to change.
Yeah, that's a good description. Maybe even earlier than Neanderthal. Who knows?
Yeah. I guess the name makes sense, but could be archaic, right?
Looking for like more employees right now, expanding.
We might get some trainees or interns soon. We were actually going to hire because there's a program in Europe where we can bring people from different countries. But again, because of the COVID, we had to stall a little bit.
Sure.
But yeah, in terms of the core team, we're not hiring at the moment.
I'm sure you get a lot of requests for internships.
For jobs. Yeah. It's which is great. It's cool that people are interested. A lot of requests from people at the universities, either just from a construction background or people doing research. So yeah, we try to help them as much as we can. Some are asking for too many questions. So yeah, we just it depends, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of the value of having a conversation like this. Like maybe some questions that people have can just be answered in a video rather than having to like email you and like harass for constant whatever conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
What's the most common question that you get?
I think it's about the material. People want to know the components of the material.
Which is proprietary.
Right. So they ask, hey, I'm doing some research. Can you help me? And give me your mix or something like that. Yeah, for example, with the people that we work, we also provide them with our mixes, depending on where they are located. But right now we're not giving them away.
Yeah, certainly. Are there any other companies in the automated construction space that you are like close with personally?
Do you mean? Well, I definitely follow everybody in the industry, in concrete printing. But then there's some other interesting ones in construction automation, like in automated rebar production, like rebar cages, and then I know a guy doing this automated scaffolding as well. So yeah, I stay in touch with them, and
Automated scaffolding.
yeah.
What's that called?
It's called the company's called Kewazo.
How do you spell that?
Kewazo. Oh, Kewazo. Kewazo must be how you pronounce it.
That's really cool. I'll look into that.
Yeah, so it's I would say it's pretty unique in what they're building. And yeah, then there's a lot of software stuff, but I'm not a big fan.
Yeah.
I like the robotics and the whole advanced manufacturing. I think it's much cooler.
Yeah, there's so many different components of this space that there's people from all different fields getting involved in it. Structurally, materials, mechanics, software, like so much going on.
Yeah, then you have the excavation side, right? These autonomous tractors, which are really cool. So this company in the US, build robotics, and yeah, as you say, there's so many components that that's how each startup or each small group of startups can focus on each of them, right?
Yeah. I guess you guys haven't partnered with any big construction companies.
Not yet publicly, at least. But yeah, it's we believe that partnering with construction companies would be helpful, and try to put the technology in their projects, right? To bring the technology in their existing projects, show them that it works, that it's better than what they use. So that's one of the things we're also looking into, these kind of construction partnerships.
Yeah, definitely. Especially in figuring out the added value in the project. So they are going to have a ton of data on the projects that they've already completed, and they'll be able to compare it to
exactly
a printed project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that'll definitely be a really important partnership. It's interesting how some big companies have done like little tiny projects, or they are only showing a little tiny project. It's like they're trying to say, we looked at it already, like we're not that focused on it.
Yeah, I guess it's more of a marketing thing, right? They just want to say that they are somehow involved, but again, you compare to the kind of projects that they do, and there's still no real development with them, right? So I guess again, it's a process, and at some point they will say, okay, this we have to do it no matter what. It's just the only way.
Yeah. Have you considered any like space projects at all, or is that not on your radar yet?
Well, we have considered because there are some programs, well, in NASA and here in Europe with the European Space Agency, because the kind of automated technology works for these space projects, right? You could just send a robot to Mars or to the moon or wherever, and then automatically build with local material, for example, because I don't think we would send concrete from here. But I think that at the moment it's more of these experimental projects, right? That maybe at some point are going to happen. I believe they will happen, but it's going to take longer. If it's taking time in construction and here, then it's going to take longer in Mars. So as a company, we're not really focusing on it. But yeah, whoever is doing it, they must know something that we don't.
Yeah, I mean, or they're just trying to do a publicity stunt. You never know.
Well, it's definitely it's a big vision, right? So if you sell that big vision, then at the same time, this kind of Mars-like buildings, you can also build them here. So it's all about the way they're selling strategy, and in the end, how do they want to provide value to whoever is their customer.
Yeah, I really think the whole 3D printing on Mars thing is a joke, because if you look at Elon Musk, right, he's kind of like in charge of the Mars plan, right?
Uh-huh.
He's like with the SpaceX kind of leading the pursuit to Mars. And I guess he's going to be like the king of Mars when he gets there or whatever.
It seems, yeah.
So he has the Boring Company, which specializes in digging tunnels. And the reason they need to build with automation on Mars is to protect from the environment and radiation. And so to me, it seems like a much bigger challenge to build. First, you need to take the existing material, make a printable material or like a meltable material, whatever, and then print on the surface, when instead you can just drop one of the boring machines and dig a hole underground. I mean, it seems like a much more effective solution to me. And because Elon Musk is thinking about that instead of he doesn't have a 3D printed construction company. So for me, that seems like construction on Mars is just going to be done underground, and that's going to be their solution.
That's a great idea. And at least I haven't heard that from them, focusing on Mars. At least the Boring Company makes, to me, a lot of sense, what they are doing, for example, in LA. But yeah, it can be underground buildings. And something very interesting that this guy mentions is that the tallest shafts in the mines or the deepest shafts are higher than the tallest skyscrapers.
Yeah.
So why not underground, right? It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer is because you want to have a window that looks outside.
Yeah. Maybe you can have some screens, right?
Yeah. Future generations maybe will care less. Who knows?
Who knows? But even on Earth, when you build these tunnels and shafts, and when you go down in the mines, you still need the concrete structure, right? So there has to be some kind of, maybe the type of 3D printing or process is going to be different, right?
Yeah, even in a tunnel, they still have a structure that could
exactly
ultimately maybe be printed
yeah.
From the back of a robot that's digging the hole or something. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. So they haven't thought about that yet.
It's such an interesting field to talk about because there's so many different ways to go off in.
So many applications and the ways you can combine technologies, right? Like where you just said the boring machine, which is really cool to watch, and a 3D printer on the back. So that's insane.
Yeah, we covered a lot of topics.
I think so. Yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, I love these conversations.
What What is your plan now? With these kind of interview series, talks, and then let's say covering projects. How are you thinking to move forward?
Um, I don't know. I I know that if I just build an audience around it, then
Uh-huh.
I'll be able to take it kind of whichever direction.
From
Um,
there, yeah.
I guess ultimately, like I said, I would like to do the construction projects. So either like buy the printer from someone or rent a printer. I definitely don't want to get involved in the engineering of the technology.
Yeah,
There's so many people, so many great people working on that right now.
right.
So yeah, I'm not sure exactly where I'll end up fitting in that. Right now, I'm looking at buying some either land or a house or something like that. Um, that's the only way. If I buy a property, I can do electrical and plumbing work on it myself. And I really want to learn hands-on how to do that stuff so that if I'm the general contractor on a project, I'll know if someone's doing a good job or bad job or whatever. And I feel like if I have a really intimate understanding of it, I'll be better at applying it into a 3D printed project.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in America to do electrical or plumbing work, you need to go to a trade school, and that
Oh,
could take
really?
like 4 years
Oh,
uh,
wow.
through your apprenticeship, and then you're a journeyman. Eventually, maybe become a foreman. And I don't have time for that process. So, if I can get a property that needs maybe a new bathroom or a new kitchen or something like that, and I do the work myself, I can get that valuable experience operating basically as the general contractor for myself.
Right.
Um, and that's the only way I really foresee me being able to start a general contracting firm myself right now, because I don't think anyone else is going to, in the position I'm in now, put me in charge of something like that.
Right. Yeah, yeah. You should start your own. And yeah, was gonna say something. Well, you also have YouTube, right?
Yeah, I mean that's I definitely don't intend on like being a YouTuber or whatever.
No,
Um,
no. But not to become a YouTuber, but for the construction process, it's like to learn about the
oh
contracting.
yeah, definitely. I
So
love
there's a lot of tutorials. How to put a slab. How to do all the plumbing, electrical. So yeah, that's what I meant.
I got myself through college on YouTube. And so I would say like YouTube has taught me more than any other
Any
source.
class? Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, that's my plan completely, is to fix up the property, learn whatever details I need to from YouTube, or I do know some people that have a lot of experience. So if I need to, I can give them a call and just make sure I'm not watching the wrong video. Um, so yeah, I feel pretty comfortable that I'll be able to figure it out. And yeah, I'm really excited for where I can go after that, because then at that point, I have some friends that are like in a stage of their lives where they're living in a house and maybe they want to do some remodeling or something, but they don't
Yeah.
have the biggest budget. So if I can start to do some projects like that and then maybe build a house from the ground up ultimately within the next 2 or 3 years, then I'm really well prepared to present myself as a qualified general contractor.
Right. Or or you can do the first house as a 3D printed house.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And I will if the timing fits right.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to print the first ever printed house, because then if it falls, it's like I ruined the whole industry.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Uh, I guess you have to start with a project that is not gonna, cause any problems like that.
Yeah, I'll just start with bite-sized portions and we'll see.
Maybe a garage, right?
Yeah, I love the idea of a garage actually. It's funny you mentioned that. Um, a while ago, I was doing like a cost analysis of different objects and printing them and how much the profit could be. And
Uh-huh.
I found garage to be the most profitable
Oh,
print
really?
because in America, at least, people will pay like an average of $24,000 for a two-car garage.
Oh,
And
wow.
a two-car garage can be printed for like $4,000 or
Yeah.
less, maybe.
Yeah.
So that just seems like a really valuable use case. Now, a lot of that cost in printing the garage is going to be the cost of the slab. So that's not really avoidable. But
Right.
the whole thing, including the garage doors and some lighting, could probably be done for like 12,000 or 14,000, which is a huge cost savings. So
Yeah.
I really like the idea of a like garage, shed, like simple structures like that some places might not even require permitting.
Yeah, that's true. Here, for example, I think is if the structure is under 39 square meters, something like that, you don't need any permitting. So that's helpful.
39 square meters. So I know
It's
when you
by 10. So 10 times, I think. Square feet, 390 would be.
Mhm.
Um,
I think that's
I'm
the
not
same about
sure.
your 10 by 10.
Yeah, 10 by 10.
I'm in New Jersey right now.
Okay.
It's brutal with the coronavirus. We have like 10% of the US cases here in the state.
Oh my God. Yeah. Are you leaving your house at all, or just staying there?
Yeah, I go to the job site every day for the construction.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. So far, only one person on the site got sick. Um, and he like told us all he was sick, went home. Nobody else got sick from his like group, but yeah, I mean, it's just been a
But
really,
but he got tested, or he just
yeah, he
went
got
home
tested and he
and
was positive.
oh.
But yeah, he's the only person that I personally know that actually got it. Most people I know have been really safe quarantining, and I go to the job site, but while I'm there, I'm really cautious. And then
Right.
like I come
With
home and I'm
mask, I
quarantining
guess.
after that. So life's definitely changed a lot. It's not like business as usual, certainly. Um, but yeah, I have to say, being in like the worst state in America, one of the worst states for the virus, it's um it's not like it's everywhere, you know? Like I don't know many people that have it. That's the only guy that I personally like know that caught it. So yeah, it's fascinating. I guess um it's mostly in my town at least 80% of the cases are in senior citizen homes, which is really unfortunate.
Okay. Yeah. The people that are getting most affected.
Yeah. I guess it just spreads because there's like community housing. So they're all like so close together living in like whatever.
Yeah, and it's so easy to spread.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that things open up sooner than later.
It seems many people putting pressure right on the public. Uh, Going back to Elon Musk.
Yeah, I was going to mention Elon Musk too. He's like going crazy on Twitter these days.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
He said the stock price is too high, in my opinion.
And then it dropped 10%.
Yeah, what the heck?
But I still think that everything, he's know what he's doing. He know what he's doing. So
Yeah, I think he knows what he's doing a lot too. And like, I have a lot of respect for him. So when he says something like that, like when he starts to say it's not as serious, like now it's less of a conspiracy theory thing. I don't know. And like, I always just take Elon Musk really seriously. Even
yeah,
though I guess you can't take him too seriously because he says so much crazy stuff.
yeah, like I think he started by saying that people are dumb because of the lockdown or something like that. Or that this lockdown is dumb, something like that.
He's maybe gone
But
a little
then,
stir crazy.
yeah, maybe, who knows? Maybe he has the virus. So yeah, but yeah, there's many business people that are trying to say that it's unfair, but it's just such an unexpected thing, a new pandemic that people don't even, or governments don't even know how to react. So I guess for now, just quarantine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's nobody's fault. You can't like, everyone's just doing the best they can.
Yeah.
I definitely will. I'm planning on going to the Middle East at some point, to Dubai to see some 3D
Uh-huh.
printing construction projects, Europe too eventually, but I just don't know when I'm going to be able to make that kind of trip.
Yeah, well, we're talking to some people also in the US. So maybe something will happen there.
Projects in
Um,
the US.
Projects, yeah. Um, like the reef project, for example. Not that advanced over there, but something can happen, I believe. So it would be much easier for you to come and see. But again, we are also tied to this traveling thing, right? We don't know when we can go because the borders are closed.
Yeah, it definitely makes for a much better video when I'm actually like on site with something
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Also, in our next project, we're gonna have better footage, so than the beam.
Yeah, that's a good investment.
So definitely, and we learned. There's this other video that we have of where we're printing these. It's an element that has these patterns, you know, like the printing is playing with the flow, and that one went extremely viral. So maybe that one's gonna go viral on TikTok as well.
Yeah, it's so confusing, like what goes viral and what doesn't. Like, I personally have no sense for what's gonna do well and what's gonna do poorly. TikTok, I just like I'll
Yeah,
post something and I'll be like, oh, this is junk. I'll just like flick it right out, and then it does like super well. And then something
really.
that I like spent a lot of time on and effort, it'll like do the worst of anything. So it's just like I don't know what the science is behind it.
Maybe it's just the unexpected, right?
Yeah, but I'll definitely try to post another video of Hyperion on TikTok, since the first one didn't do you guys justice.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
In fact, right after this video, I'll shoot you a DM on the Instagram.
Okay, sounds good.
I'll definitely keep an eye on all the stuff Hyperion's doing on your Instagram, the LinkedIn, your website. I guess you guys do post a lot of stuff to LinkedIn. That's a great place for people to follow you. And yeah, anybody that wants to get in contact with you should definitely go on your website and go to the contact page and try to be realistic with their expectations of what you guys are printing, but also understand that you have a team of pretty capable designers. So I guess if they have some concept of something realistic that could be 3D printed, they should just try to like outline it, maybe give you a drawing of what their concept is to visualize. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Any other concluding remarks?
Anything to conclude? I don't know. I think that that's it. Yeah.
It's been great talking to you, Fernando.
Yeah. Thank you, Jared. It was great talking to you. So yeah, hope we repeat it at some point, and if not me, with my partner as well.
All right. Stay healthy for sure, and keep making good progress.
Take care on the job site and stay at home.
All right.
All
Later
right,
on.
man. Nice talking to you.